is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
It is ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. And people, welcome into the show. We just want to say, first of all, just say thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. We're paying attention, people. You guys have gotten our attention. You've been checking us out on the audio side, wherever you download your podcast. We really appreciate you for that. And make sure you continue to download that bad boy. And once you download it and realize that we're probably the greatest thing since sliced bread, you want to give us a 5-star review. So all your friends, your auntie, your cousins, your mama, them, all of them, so they can understand what we got going down here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. We're not the only show here. We have Hitting Hard with John Chuckery, A to Z with Mark Zeno. And we're trying to make that push towards 2,000 subscribers. We're up over 1,700 right now. Woo. And we appreciate you for liking and subscribing to our YouTube page. So, go ahead, go to YouTube. Drop in that Locked On Sports Atlanta in the search box. We'll pop right up. And as soon as you start watching, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We got a lot of good stuff coming up for you today. Some unfortunate news. Braves get the win, but some unfortunate news about one of the key players, one of the major players going down. We'll talk about what that means for the Atlanta Braves going forward. Secondly, the Atlanta Hawks making front office moves. What does this mean big picture? Did Travis Schlenk need some help? And last but not least, and for the culture, man, Steve Kerr used to bust heads back in the day, and it's the anniversary of something like that. We'll talk about that and what that means for the NBA Finals. All of that coming up on For the Culture. But before we get there, the Atlanta Braves, Ozzie Albies goes down. Dave O'Brien tweeted out not too long ago that he's going to be added to the 60-day DL, and Orlando Arcia was the guy who filled in for him last night. But I think that it's going to take several people to kind of fill that void, so to speak. And I don't think it's necessarily going to look to the person who actually fills in for him, but I think it's going to take a group of people or a couple of people to kind of fill that void that Ozzie Albies is leaving right now.
Yeah, I feel like the same. And the thing about it is, the good news is whether you look, and there are a couple different ways, right? Because we've spoken about him actually just yesterday, talking about how the fact that in Major League Baseball, there's really not a Batman and Robin per se, the way we talk about it in basketball. But if there was, it definitely would be like an Acuna Jr. And then Ozzie would have been that Robin, that person who is, low key, isn't looking for the recognition, but when you look into it, he's so much more than just the numbers would dictate. Indeed. As we saw last year, and him being a critical piece of the Braves getting that world championship, right? And this year, there he is, just starting to, get going. And now this, but Marcell Ozuna showed a little something last night. So it's like, okay, maybe he's waking up or peaking at the right time. Adam Duvall is another one who is starting to peak at just the right time. So as much as you hate to see Ozzie go down, because you hear that he's a different kind of leader, but still in the void of a Freddie Freeman, if you will. He's one of those guys who was a leader in the locker room and the leader in the bullpen, just a leader for this entire team, right? And that's in the dugout. And that's something that I think you can't necessarily replace that piece, but at least for what he did at the plate and on the field, I think this is a good space for Alex Anthopoulos, because he doesn't necessarily have to go out to the market to replace Ozzie, right? So I think that still puts him in a good position, especially if you are of the mindset that if there's a piece that AA would like to add at or before the trade deadline, that might still be better served with adding someone to the pitching rotation versus having to maybe go out and seek somebody to replace Albies at second base, because you could probably do this by committee with what you have in-house, or maybe going down to the farm system just to see if there's anybody who could give some relief. But I believe Anthopoulos is always a guy who is masterful at figuring these things out. So I don't doubt that he has a plan in place. And it's a 60-day IL. That's still a long time, so to speak. That's still 2 months, but you never know. You never know, because certainly he could come off the IL sooner rather than later, and that's what we hope for.
No doubt about it. And with Albies going on the injured list, they did bring up veteran utility infielder Phil Gosselin from AAA Gwinnett. So in response to that, to bring him for that roster spot. But I think it's very interesting that you brought, you mentioned Ozuna and Duvall, because Ozuna is a guy, we know what Duvall is doing. He's actually he's all in Florida. He can ride through all the little hoods in Florida, screaming Duval. I've been kind of tweeting that out when he goes yard. So I think we could continue to expect those same things from him. But Ozuna's been struggling, and I think that there's a little irony in there, right? When you see him go yard in the third inning last night, hitting the 2-run home run, and you start to see him get a little bounce around on his little home run trot, and then Ozzie going down, it's like, okay, Ozone, this is what we're gonna need to see from you because of what's eventually went down, and I think that I think it's okay to expect that, because, like you said, the Braves are. I've been coining the murderer's row. I know it's been used before with that team up there at the top of the United States right there. I ain't gonna say them because I don't mess with them people like that up there. The place with the burrows, if you don't know what I'm talking about.
Whatever.
Now Tenitra is a fan of that team, so that's why I'm messing with her. Yeah, that's why she's cheesing right now. So I think that I think that's the kind of answer to the question, right? Who's going to fill that void? Adam Duvall, Marcell Ozuna. If they can continue at the plate to continue to do what they're doing, I think he still would be missed, obviously, because he's an excellent defender. But I think that at the plate, that production and what they've been able to do to be on a 12-game winning streak. My goodness, I think the Braves are prime. I think they're prepared as much as you can be when you lose a guy like this.
Yeah, and when you think about the fact that the Braves are right there with their 89 home runs, right there with the Yankees that have 98 home runs. Hey, look, they're both my 1A and my 1B, and I ain't apologizing. So everybody back up off.
All good. Okay? I'll let you slide. Only you. Only you.
But that's something to say that they are right there with the Yankees in being in first place and having the most home runs in the NL, in the National League, and then being number 2 in the majors overall. Reason being, this wasn't a conversation you could necessarily have a week or two, well, we'll say 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. So just knowing that they're trending up, and we talked about it yesterday, how we're seeing runners in scoring position actually score runs. So when you talk about it that way, that's when it gets exciting. And like you said, what they're doing, a 12-game win streak, something that you haven't seen from the Braves since like 2013. I mean, it's been almost a decade, and then it's been over 2 decades since you've seen them maybe win like 15 in a row, if you will. And they are approaching that, right? Especially when you think about the fact that they go from the Nats to the Cubs. So very possible for them to, meet or exceed that streak. But you also talked about the fact that there are some things that Alex Anthopoulos and the Braves club organization has already done, which is also kind of indicative of what I said I expected them to do, which is kind of go into the tool chest of what they have in the farm system first before going out to the market and maybe just leaving the market for pitchers. But one other thing that I thought was so indicative, because we talk about where this team is and what is it about this team that's starting to gel, absent of the fact that we get that some of the teams they played are subpar, I think it's also the consistency in developing that identity. And we definitely are starting to see the consistency. You talked about it when you're seeing what Adam Duvall has been doing over a stretch of time. Now we're talking, 8 games into this run that he's had, but it's that dude who's now responsible in some part for them going 13-3 since they called him up from AA, and that is Michael Harris II, who had his first career home run last night, but also received a road curtain call from Braves fans. Yes, they are all, Braves country is all
over the place.
What
man.
I love is
the
bravado of it, Jarvis.
Yes, that is like, this dude, he's from here, like from Stockbridge, the lefty. Like, I've been reading about this cat like for a while, and I was almost kind of a little timid about even bringing him up when they were having so many issues out in the outfield defensively. And I was just like, man, just bring the young kid up. I know he's in Double A. I know he hasn't played in Triple A. What was that, 40-some games in Double A? That's all he played. And I was just like, all right, I understand, but man, this dude is an absolute talent. Marquise Grissom tabbed this guy a long time ago, and he's been working with him. And we know what Marquise Grissom means to the city of Atlanta when you're talking about what he was able to accomplish as a player. And when former players tab young guys, pay attention, because they know exactly what they're looking at, and they know exactly what they they know what they see when it comes to establishing and looking at talent. It's like, okay, all right, this kid got something, and he has definitely proved that ever since, like you said, part of this winning streak. Being on it and being out in center field, and I think he's locked in out there, and he's the guy that has made this team so deep, right? Whether or not to put Duval in left field or, sit Ozuna down and put Contreras at DH, he has just really been a godsend for the Atlanta Braves as far as locking in that center fielder for the next how many every years like he wants to play, because it seems like the Braves got them one. And just to be able to do something on the opposite team, like even with when they were out there with the Rockies, like you heard the chants going on out there, and I'm just
a little edge to him. I
like this is. It kind of bring me back to the '90s, T. Like this was my first team I was a fan of as far as the Braves go. Baseball was my first sport, so when I see signs of things that used to be go down back in the day, like I get excited. I started feeling a little nostalgic for me, and to have these young brothers out here, and Acuna and Michael Harris, just establishing a certain type of culture, right? Because we've had these conversations before. Just Freddie Freeman was the leader in the clubhouse, and he established and set the tone for that clubhouse. And I think now we're starting to see it with Ronald Acuna just out here just putting on a performance in every game, and everybody just following his lead, and then to have all these young guys out here doing their thing. I think the Braves are in good shape, and like I said, and for those who don't know, they did win 9-5 and they continue to streak 12 games, and they will be trying to continue the streak tonight at 7:05 first pitch. And guess who's on the mound? Max Fried. How about that? So the ace is coming to the mound, and we'll see if the Braves can continue that streak and not have any remnants of being down about our guy Isaac being out for the next couple months or so, at least the next couple months, and we can see if they can continue to keep this thing going. And speaking of keeping it going, the Atlanta Falcons are back at it. Mandatory minis. It is going down, T. When you think about, where the Falcons are, there are a lot of questions that have been coming into, as far as whether it be the offensive line, running back, and who's going to show up, who's not going to show up. Cordell Patterson, has shown up, but, Arthur Smith was like, hey, he's a vet. We know what to expect from him. He's going to, not have to participate in practice, but it's good to see that, mostly everybody's going to be there, and the Falcons are going to be able to get some stuff done up in Flowery Branch.
Yeah, that's exciting. And listen, we know that Cordero Patterson is the person who goes at 110 miles an hour, even in a practice. We've seen it for ourselves, and we can tell you that
he's a true pro.
Yeah, this is definitely just a precautionary measure, because he goes so hard even at practice, that Arthur Smith just wants him to be at his best, and that can be accomplished at training camp. You don't need to there's no real new installations as far as offense is concerned, maybe a few wrinkles here and there, but he knows the offense. So hey, him being physically there but not on the field, Jarvis and I not worried about that, right?
Not to worry at all. And we'll continue this conversation as far as what's going on up at Flowery Branch tomorrow, because, hey, y'all know how we get down. We're out there. We're doing our thing. We're covering this thing. We're giving you everything you need to know. And we will continue to give you everything you need to know. Yep. The Atlanta Hawks are all in the news. It's summertime. Travis Slant got decisions to make. They made, Landry Fields the general manager. What does that actually mean? More eyeballs on who to bring in, who to get rid of, who to trade, who to sign. We'll discuss all that next, right here on ATL Day One's part of Locked On Sports Atlanta.